son is getting better, and he's with Congressman Collin Peterson for 20 years, and he's been with us for several, and he knows how DC works. So, Robert.
All right, thanks, Don. Let me just correct it just a minute. I know how DC does not work. That's part of what I'm here to talk about today. So we're going to take a lot of the kind of historical context of rural policy, farm policy, some of the particular challenges that we're facing in the ag sector right now, and bring it pretty focused on the Farm Bill and how we might pull some of our goals and our solutions for these challenges together in a progressive farm bill that truly works for farmers and rural communities. And to start with, I'm going to put on my congressional staffer hat. I was staff director of the House Ag Committee for a number of years, and I can easily tell you why this will not work and why it's not possible. First and foremost, that's way too expensive. We don't have the resources, we don't have, we are so far in debt. There's just no source of money in order to help these rural communities. Secondly, they're represented by so few members now in Congress. And when you look at Congress, it is so divided in so many different ways that the farm voice itself and that rural community voice is often lost out. It is also, you look at the money that is currently being spent outside of the farm bill. Some of the headlines right now are that farm income is at its highest level since 2013. You read a little bit down, you soon learn, and you guys already know this, that a third of that increase is coming from government payments. It's not from the marketplace. That about 2/3 of that is coming from the trade aid package that the administration's been pushing out. And the rest of it is coming from farm program payments, conservation payments, etc. We've spent $28 billion over the last couple of years just in this ad hoc assistance. It was needed, no doubt about it. In that form, I think it's going to be really disastrous as we look forward to the next farm bill. Because you have the urban population and the urban members of Congress who are looking at all this money going out from USDA out to Trump supporters, quite frankly. Why are we supporting Trump supporters like this? They made their bed, they should be forced to live in it. No recognition of kind of the realities out there in rural America. You also have the most conservative wing of the Republican Party who looks at all this money that is going out on an ad hoc basis and says, whoa, we didn't even know this thing called a CCC authority even existed, and it's just a way to shovel money out. We have to put an end to that. Very quickly, some of the most liberal base says, absolutely, we're on board with you on that. So this happens occasionally, right? You get these two factions that you might think of traditionally as being so diametrically opposed ideologically, and yet in ways like this, they can join forces and create a real challenge. So as we look to the next farm bill, I think the money that has already gone out, and not so much the money, but the way it went out, is going to create big problems for the next farm bill. I think the underlying pressure of partisan politics will also do that. I can't even begin to talk about how the effective current impeachment is going to have on that. But the fact is that you're going to hear constantly, we can't do a progressive farm bill because it's too expensive. We've already spent so much money. What's the real return here on that? So I will shift gears now to the Farmers Union hat. And one thing Farmers Union has a long history of doing is being, quite frankly, that pain in the ass that just stays in there, fighting the fight, and that's how it happens. I'll use a more recent example, not the most progressive farm policy, I'm not here to argue that, but the 2008 Farm Bill, which we harken back to his son, who's now 20, but around that time he was 8 years old, and he spent far too many nights, weekends, and so forth at the House Ag Committee. It helped him later in his civics classes, but the investment, the time, and all the challenges. At the end, there were two things that I remember about the final party celebrating the passage of the 2008 Farm Bill, and that was Nancy Pelosi was there. Tom Bias, who was the current NFU president at the time, had rented a whack-a-mole game, the ones where you keep hitting different things, as emblematic of all of the challenges that had happened and all of the impediments that had occurred through the course of trying to get that Farm Bill done. It can't be done, it's too expensive, we can't go there. Why are you talking about organics? Why are you talking about beginning farmers? There were a lot of different things that we were told were not possible. And so it was constantly trying to knock down these impediments. And it was a great moment to see Speaker Pelosi, actually using the whack-a-mole. She's actually pretty good at it. My son-in-law was irritated that who's this old person taking over the fun game here. But then he also went in the back room. I lost sight of him for a while. And he had come back out and he had created this really long sign made out of typing paper there, boy that dates me, printer paper, and had created a sign that said, "Now go home to your families." Oh. And it just also kind of like brought it into what was a tremendous battle. It took a long time to get that Farm Bill done. There were all these challenges that took place around money. In the beginning, we weren't even given real money to write the Farm Bill. We were given these promissory notes of $10 million and just outrageous kind of sums. And but is that money going to be there? Well, just assume right now that it might be. Well, how do you write policy, based on that kind of currently empty promise? My point here is that it wasn't the Ag Committee that put that bill together. We spent the hours, writing all that stuff. But it was a coalition that was deep, and quite frankly, was led in many sectors by Farmers Union. It was that person who was who was constantly not taking no for an answer, was building the case with a very strong coalition and finding those solutions. We ended up in that Farm Bill with the first ever organic title. No mention of organic agriculture before that time. There was also the beginning of the beginning farmers programs, a huge investment in socially disadvantaged agriculture and farmers markets. There were a lot of these new programs included in there. There was also a competition title. We had the Farmer Fair Practice rules that came out of that, which has its own sad ending, but it was a start. We got it in the Farm Bill. Country of origin labeling. Everybody said there is no way that Farmers Union is going to be able to get that in the Farm Bill. It was done. There are other challenges. The fight continues on that. My point is, when you look at a Farm Bill, you are always immediately going to be told it is not possible. You cannot do it. This doesn't make sense. We don't have the resources. We don't have the support to make it happen. We can't say no to it. When you look at these coalitions, we have to think really broad. We have our allies within the ag space itself. But much like some of the other panelists, Austin was talking about in the antitrust space, we have these coalitions and so forth. We need to be broad in that. One of the areas that we're looking at right now, which has been a traditional ally, but we're wanting to make deeper roots, are teachers. Teachers, they certainly care about strong schools, but when you look at rural issues, they also need strong rural communities. They need communities that have small businesses downtown. They need to have small communities that have farms around them to help support those small businesses. So they care about concentration. They care about a number of these issues, access to food, for example, and we have a lot of alliances there. So my only point is there will always be reasons why we cannot have a progressive farm bill. but we will be there at the very front arguing just the opposite. When you look at many of the things that we need, when you look at ways to bring the market into more working order and get supply and demand, that's not a question of ad hoc payments going out to farmers. That's making sure and making an intentional policy choice that doesn't cost money, that makes it easier to get a fair price on the market. So these arguments about costs and all these handouts and so forth, we need to turn that dial a little bit, explain better what a progressive farm bill actually means and what it means to rural communities, and make that time, and we can get this done. I'm really looking forward to the dialogue here and questions.